The Lotus Evija doesn't just set a new standard for Lotus driving performance, it challenges the essence of supercars, urging us to envisage a future where the roar of engines is replaced by the humming pulse of electric propulsion. But as we stand at the cusp of automotive evolution, we are left to wonder, are electric hypercars like the Evija the vanguards of a new era, or a compromise of weight, sound and expense that we may simply have to endure to keep enjoying cars?
Okay, so here we finally are.
Here we are, James.
Here we finally are. What we're stood in front of is, am I right in thinking this is mechanically, structurally, production-ready Evija?
Yes, it is. So we started building Evija in production. That's a bay-built car. We started that earlier this year.
Okay,
so far, this is one of our first marketing cars, so press car. Yeah, we're in, as I say, full-scale production now.
And you'll be making no more than 130 of these?
130.
Wow.
In Lotus parlance, we have type numbers.
Yes.
So type 1 being the very first Lotus. This is type 130. So we went. The 130 has meaning in that it is type 130.
This thing is as much of a science project as it is a car. One do we start with this?
So we need to start with the tub because it's the core of the car, and actually to call it a tub isn't really doing it justice. Mm-hmm. It's a one-piece carbon structure, and we hang most of the mechanical and electrical parts that drive this car from that tub. So it is carbon from crash can to crash can. So underneath the skin here, we've got crash cans that go right out to the front of the car and the rear. So from our crash structure all the way through, this is a one-piece carbon structure. Because we've designed and built it in this way, it's incredibly strong, and it's meant that we can make the passenger cell a lot larger than you might expect for a hypercar. So most hypercars, you have to stand on the seats and slide in and get very familiar with the person sitting next to you. This car, we've got a lovely big aperture in the door, so you can step in comfortably, you can step onto the floor and sit down into the seat. So that was part of the original brief for the car. So when we wrote the list of attributes for Evija, we wanted to make it usable. And you'll notice that we have actually made it a usable hypercar. You can, if you want to, drive to the shops.
While I'm being introduced to the Evija ahead of my first drive, a handful of lucky depositors are also getting their very first taste of the £2 million hypercar.
So for customers today, this is really a money can't buy experience. It's interaction with the development engineers, the drivers, everybody who runs the Evijas, the driver himself who's going to do the fast lap. So that interaction, we're actually chatting with them. They can ask us any question they like and we can actually show them around the car. It's that close-knit family thing that Lotus is really approachable. You know, it's an open door policy, and if they're lucky enough to be here, then they can just gain and hive information from us about their product and the experience that they're going to have with it.
We look in the middle of the car here, through the glass you can see the battery cover. So our battery, it's an 800 volt battery, and driving our electric drive units, which are also contained within this carbon structure. So we've got an electric drive unit at the rear of the car here, and another one at the front. Within that, we've got 2 motors in each electric drive unit and 2 gearboxes. So all 4 wheels are driven independently and give us a total of 2,011 horsepower and 1,704 Newton meters of torque.
So substantial go then.
Substantial go, yeah.
So each wheel effectively is independently controllable.
Yes.
Does that mean you can do some really trick torque vectoring?
Yeah, so the car has a computer system which is running not only the torque vectoring, but it's also talking to all the other systems on the car. So we've got some very trick active aero at the back of the car here, which is controlling not only the height of this wing using hydraulics, but also the angle of attack of the wing going into the air. And it's working in unison with a drag reduction system, which is at the rear of the car. And they will decide the best way to deploy not only the power to the wheels, but also these aero settings. And we have a total of 5 different aero settings for the wing and the drag reduction system, depending on what conditions the car's in. So if it needs to apply a lot of downforce, and we can apply a lot of downforce, then it will change the angle of attack of the wing so that it's pushing the back of the car into the ground. And also the drag reduction system, the flap that's underneath the rear number plate there, that will open and close depending on whether we're trying to apply downforce using that huge diffuser under the car, or we want to go for outright speed.
I think you might need to go for a cool down lap. I cooked the brakes a little bit. Yeah, good crack, mate. Really, really nice. Rolls off like really nicely into an apex. Like you really, really, really hold the brake like right into a corner, which I wasn't expecting with the way that it's got. Yeah, I think we probably should have done a cool down lap because
It looks like you drove that properly.
yeah.
Nice.
Well, it's like brake and I was like, got the time.
As you expected?
No, like actually, yeah, I was getting into it. I was like, oh, this is gonna feel heavy. It's gonna feel kind of like, nah, mate, just like precise and like easy to drive.
That's any tool.
Yeah, and that's the craziest thing. I'm like, this thing in race mode must be like cracked. And then the first time I whacked the throttle, I was like,
I can't wait to see your reaction.
I can't wait either.
You made the interesting decision to house your batteries in a way that it would almost replicate physics similar to that of an engine.
Yes, so the same reason that in an internal combustion engine car, the ideal position is to mount that big heavy internal combustion engine there. We've put our battery here. It's a large unit, it weighs around 700 kilos, so it's the most heavy component in this car for sure. But we put it in the best place so that the inertia, the feel, when you're driving the car, it will feel very much like a mid-engine internal combustion car to drive because of where we've positioned this battery. Actually, 85% of the components in this car have come from a UK supplier base. So we've got a Hypercar designed and engineered by Lotus in the UK, built in the UK, using mostly UK supplied parts.
Wow.
So it's a really cool story.
It's very, very cool. Earlier, you touched on substantial aero. Do you have any ballpark downforce figures?
In total, we generate 1,680 kilograms of aerodynamic downforce at Vmax, which is 217 miles an hour or 350 kilometers an hour. So almost enough the car could drive upside down at Vmax.
What does it weigh?
1,850 kilograms. So,
And 700 of that is battery.
correct.
So as a fundamental platform, batteries aside, it's just over a ton.
Yes, it's very, very light.
Crikey,
So
wow.
we've got a full carbon tub, full carbon body, and we've gone for lightweight wherever we can. We have carbon ceramic disc brakes made by Brembo, 6-pot brake calipers. We have magnesium 21-inch alloy wheels, so again, super light.
Yep.
And we are known for making lightweight cars, so we have tried to take the weight out wherever we can.
Okay, so this is somewhat of a monumental moment. I've been in awe at the sculpture and design philosophy of this car for literal years. And today we're here, rolling out onto the GP circuit at the Nürburgring. And it's important to remember, today is all about that there, tour mode. So while we are on circuit, the calibration of this is how you would drive it in swift road conditions. So let's see what this thing's all about. Also, a first for me today is the first time that I've been on the GP circuit at the ring. So I'm not trying to make an excuse, but we won't be going that quick. Right then. First impressions, I mean, the front end is ludicrous. Just massive amounts of instant torque. So you get into the road, I guess, ESC quite early. You can feel it sort of throttle back. Good God! Right. It's different. It's different world of torque and power because there's no conventional engine RPM to sort of have an audible reference point from. Yeah. It sort of deceptively gathers pace. Look at those numbers on the dash. Absolutely ludicrous. Wow. So you might be able to detect on camera that every now and again the ESC of tour mode is intervening in the subtle slip that it's detecting, which is fine. I mean, ultimately, we are in tour mode. The reason we're on track is to be able to play with it without breaking any speed limits. It's planted, absolutely ridiculous. So right now as well, we're running around about, I think it's around about 1200 horsepower right now, which in anyone's language is ridiculous, but it's still shy of a whole McLaren Senna's worth of go in track mode, which is berserk. Yes, it is severely swift, this thing. Crikey, look at those numbers. Yeah, we're not going to do any late braking this afternoon. Just going to get a feel for it. Oh, there you go, it's cut in there. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is this thing could go a lot faster, not only through more horsepower, but the calibration of its software. I think it's important to say that as much as the engineering in this is phenomenal from a physical engineering point of view, the software engineering is as phenomenal. That's just absurd. So it's running carbon ceramic brakes, and it's disguising its weight fairly well because it's just over 1850 kilograms. I think it's like 1886 or something like that. It doesn't feel it. I mean, this is downhill braking, just shy of 150 miles an hour, plenty in reserve. And there's that safety net from what is effectively road mode. Okay, it's running around about 1200 now, but the fundamentals of it are, it's incredibly approachable. It's odd being in a platform that is so, it's ultimately a hypercar platform, it's so driver focused, and you're not reaching for any paddles. And yet you've got this sort of LMP-esque wheel here. It's very cool. The most unusual thing, I think, is not having the usual audible references that you conventionally have from an internal combustion engine, but it still has, as I'm sure you can hear, this high-pitched RPM build in its own right, and that after a while becomes a reference point. But crikey, if this is road mode, what on earth is going to be track mode? I would say as much as on track it might be a mild frustration that Tor's ESC kicks in a little early, you've got to contextualize this and put it onto a damp B road in Britain in November and go, the chances are this mode's going to save you a few times, because the amount of power, the instantaneous response, the torque is almost tangible. It's like this malleable ball of energy under your right foot, and it's relentless. So as much as right now on this dry day on a full fat racetrack, that intervention from traction is a bit frustrating, ultimately we're in road mode and we probably wouldn't be going that fast on a road. It's pretty cool. So Simon mentioned that they're in sort of software development phase 4. I think final sign-off is development phase 5. So we're really fortunate to even be driving it at this stage, and it's promising. Very cool thing.
I mean, if that's road mode, I don't know where you're going with track. I don't know.
Thoughts?
You boys are unhinged.
I reckon.
So that's around about 1200 horsepower, is it? And so tour mode is as it sounds. It's a sort of, it's like fast road.
Yeah, and you dial it up to sport and then you dial it up to track. And that adds another 400 and another 400 horsepower, so up to 2000.
It's like, the front end's ridiculous. And what I found really intriguing about it is most
familiar EV platforms have this low weight due to sort of skateboard setup of the batteries sitting super low. Because of the physics of how you've constructed the battery pack, it felt familiar from a physics standpoint, and I thought with all of the fancy diffs and all of that it would feel alien, but it doesn't.
And it's all about keeping that Lotus DNA. We want to make it as capable as possible, but still feel like a Lotus. It's got to have that core DNA, otherwise it's not Lotus.
After the insane power and torque,
Yeah.
I think my favourite feature is the hydraulic steering.
Yeah.
It feels like almost like the good old days, almost.
And again,
that's
it's
what it feels like.
It's what Lotus is famous for,
Yeah.
isn't it? That light,
So much tactility through it, and the way
feedback
it
that's coming to you.
naturally loads up through corners. There's no sort of synthetic feedback to it, and grabbing that little LMP style wheel is just adds to it.
So you've done what? 4 laps, 5
Yeah,
laps,
about
something
that,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's your first
yeah.
go out in the car.
Yeah.
One word?
Yeah.
One word summary?
Unhinged.
The Lotus Evija stands as a spectacular machine, igniting a sense of hope within me for the contribution of electric propulsion in the world of high-performance cars. However, at £2 million, the barrier to entry is high, really high, and only time will tell whether this remarkable technology can trickle down into the realm of more attainable sports cars.